following video will contain discussions about child endangerment. Nothing explicit will be shown, but you cannot discuss this individual without acknowledging his crimes. Viewer discretion is advised. Also, I am making no claim regarding any reference or outright mention of any real individual mentioned in these files. I am simply reporting on some of what the United States federal government has released as of February 26, 2026. So the United States federal government has decided they're done releasing the Epstein files. To the surprise of no one, there's a lot of really messed up stuff here. Most of that stuff I will not dive into because there are other people with more resources and time covering it better than I ever could. But instead, I want to focus on one specific detail that's been circulating online: devil worship in the Epstein files. A lot of people have been saying that Epstein and his circle were cannibalistic, Satan-worshipping child torturers, but how much evidence is there for that? That's a pretty big claim. For the child torture part, yes, there's an overwhelming amount of evidence released by the United States federal government that child torture was happening. For the Satan worship angle, though, there's not as much evidence out there, but there are still some things that should wave red flags. The biggest indicator some people are taking to mean that there was some kind of devil worship is that Jeffrey Epstein appears to have named his bank account Baal. But who is Baal, and why would Epstein name his bank account after this thing? Baal is not a person. Baal is a title from ancient Canaanite religion. Baal meant Lord, but it was often applied to one specific storm god who is often depicted with a bull head. Not always, but often. And this storm god, Baal, was often depicted as a rival to the god of the Bible, Yahweh. In the ancient Canaanite religion, the Canaanites, by the way, are a people who lived near the ancient Israelites. Both Yahweh and Baal were seen as storm gods, but as time went on and the ancient Israelites centralized worship around Yahweh alone, Baal got reclassified to a demon instead of a rival god. There are multiple accounts of followers of Yahweh and Baal arguing over whose god is better, from Moses to Elijah and even the King Josiah. This was an ongoing religious debate, until finally, Yahweh won. Why would Epstein name his bank account after a demon? Well, I hate to be that guy, but naming your bank account after a demon doesn't mean you are worshipping demons. In all likelihood, it was probably just an edgy joke he had for himself. That is, if his bank account was even named Baal, and odds are, it maybe even wasn't. The whole reason people are saying his bank account is named Baal is because of a tech error. Lots of times, whenever you see Baal in the Epstein files, the technology is failing to render blank and it spits out Baal instead. You'll see that there are parts of the emails where his account name and Baal aren't even near each other, but people are still saying that his account is named Baal. It's not always a failure to render a blank space, though. Other times you see Baal, it could be that it shows up in his credit ratings alongside BAA2 and BAA3. If nothing else, this should tell you that credit scores are a product of the devil. Now, here's something I want you to remember. Absence of evidence does not mean evidence of absence. Just because there's no outright mention of Baal worship doesn't mean there wasn't some kind of culty stuff / code speak going on. For example, there's an exchange between Epstein and Elon Musk, shown in the Epstein files, where Epstein is talking in some kind of code, but Musk doesn't get it. So Epstein has to flat out explain to Musk what he's trying to say. It's possible there is some demon worship hidden between the lines, but we can't know that without an indication of someone breaking the code. Plus, most instances of speaking in code seem to be related to torturing children, not the occult. There are more mentions of culty stuff going on, though. Another email mentions a secret society centered around the Western Zodiac. There are 12 members at a time, and each member has powerful connections. One of the people mentioned as a member was Paul Volcker, a former chairman of the Federal Reserve. In another email, Epstein's even talking about wanting to start his own secret society, with initiation rituals, beliefs, principles, and Topkapi. Topkapi is likely a reference to the Ottoman palace, where sultans lived and kept their harems. Based on what everyone knows about Epstein, from the files released by the United States federal government, he made the harem part come true. So I think it's possible he had some kind of cult thing going on. It may not have been a devil-worshipping cult per se, but more of a self-worship cult. And honestly, I think a cult based around self-worship makes more sense given how egotistical these men have to be to accumulate all that wealth and not do any good for society with it. Now listen, if you're disappointed or mad, I understand because I'm right there with you. These people are so evil. Surely there must be some kind of more nefarious entity at play. The sad and scary fact is, these people are humans. And humans are perfectly capable of performing acts of insane cruelty without any kind of assistance from otherworldly beings. As of me writing this video, on February 25th, only 3 million of the 6 million total Epstein files have been released by the United States federal government. And of those released, there are thousands with redactions. According to what was released in these files, these people were awful, and they did awful things. You don't need to make up any rumors of devil worship. There's plenty of stuff in here already to justify your hatred of them. If you want justice for the survivors and you live in the United States, contact your senators and representatives and have them demand the release of all Epstein files, including ones that have already been overly redacted, and demand that investigations be launched into those so they can be held accountable for their evil. And if for whatever reason they don't listen to you, then go out in the midterms and put in people who will listen to you. God bless you and good luck.